Citizens of Space is a game I almost missed in the shuffle of eShop titles. Really, I only found it because I was trying to pre-purchase my friend Pedro, so why not review it right now? As you probably guessed by the title, this is a sequel to Citizens of Earth. Is it as good as the original? Well, that's a tough question to answer for a number of reasons. Let's start with the story. As you would guess by the title, this game takes place in space. At first, I was a bit worried about this, as 60 parsecs also moved to space for the sequel, and it made the game worse than the original, mainly because so much of the charm of 60 seconds was the setting. I'm happy to report that is not the case with Citizens of Space. All the different aliens and robots have really creative and visually appealing designs. If anything, the change in setting only helped the game. The main character, instead of being the Vice President of Earth, is now the Ambassador. Despite the fact that they're technically separate people, he's basically the exact same character as the original. Although you probably guessed that by looking at how similar their designs are. Everything from the bright red hair, to the nearly identical suits, to the constant smile, it paints a pretty clear picture. For the main premise this time, instead of solving problems on Earth, you're trying to find it. Yep. It just went missing, and that pretty much sets the tone for the game. Charming and utterly ridiculous. Each world you go to also has its own little conflict, which is fun and adds just a little extra something to the story. The political satire in this game is about on the same level as the first one. Infrequent and not very deep, but freaking hilarious whenever it shows up. Although, I really could have done without the president being a Trump parody. Seriously, that joke is beyond played out at this point. The visuals are bright and colorful. Both the characters and the worlds have really appealing designs. Also, the music is a pretty big step up. Seriously, here's a battle theme from the original. Okay, now here's one from this game. With all that out of the way though, it's time to talk about the gameplay. One of the reasons it's tough to compare this game with the original is just how much of an overhaul the gameplay had. Simply put, if the original was trying to be Earthbound, this one is trying to be Paper Mario. The citizens in this game have roughly the same amount of moves as in the original, but this time, each one is accompanied by a 1000-year door style battle minigame. There's a lot of different minigames, and as a result, most of the citizens feel like they have their own play styles. But for those who just want a normal turn-based experience, you can turn off the minigames anytime you like. You can also change the difficulty of the battles whenever you feel like it. Not only that, but this time, you have all of your citizens in the battle. You can only use 3 at a time, but you can switch them out whenever you want. And they take over for each other if one of them gets killed. However, that segues into one of my biggest gripes with this game: the citizens. The way they were implemented was beyond disappointing. Don't get me wrong, design-wise, they're a huge step up. My problem is that you use less than a third of them in battle. I can kind of understand given how many battle minigames they would need to program in for that, but the non-battle citizens barely feel like additions to your party. You barely get a chance to use the summons given how much energy needs to be charged up, and the partners are weird. You add them onto battle citizens and it changes their stats and gives them new moves, but I mostly forgot about those moves because they're hidden away in their own separate menu. And when you do use them, it doesn't feel like it's the partner using it. I would have at least liked to see the partner show up when they use the move, but nope. As for recruiting the citizens, it's not as fun as the original. It's still fun, but it feels like there's less variety in recruiting methods. At least there's no soda minigame this time. Traversing on the overworld got a new addition as well, a dash mechanic that I really don't like. You hold a button to charge it up, and the ambassador goes flying. It's tough to control, and only really serves to make the regular walk feel slow. At least you don't have your party trailing behind you this time, but that hardly matters given the overworld's other big change. You see, the overworld is host to this game's biggest problem. It's the dreaded mechanic that sends shivers down the spine of any RPG fan: random encounters. They didn't make a whole lot of sense back in the NES days, but implementing them in a game today, I'm sorry, but that's just unacceptable, especially since the original showed the enemies on the field. This is made even worse by the game's navigation. Whenever you're in a dungeon, just about everything looks the same. As a result, I've had plenty of times where I'd get sucked into a battle, and by the time I got out of it, I couldn't remember which way I was going, so I would be walking around in circles for hours. There is a map, but not only is it tough to figure out how to open it without a loading screen hint, but it only covers one room at a time. One thing that stays true to the original, though, is the technical aspect. Voice clips stop playing if you play for too long. I got stuck on plenty of staircases. There were a ton of frame drops, and even a battle where it would keep skipping one of my party members' turns for seemingly no reason. So in the end, is this game worth it? Are the fun, charming aspects of this game enough to outshine the clunky, frustrating ones? It depends. If you're a fan of turn-based RPGs, particularly Paper Mario style ones, I do recommend it. However, the genre has been on really thin ice with me lately, so combining that with all the negative aspects this game had was enough to keep me from finishing it.